Okay, we will call to order this meeting of the Village of North Hudson Plan Commission, November 17th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Members Anderson,
Present.
Lockman,
Present.
Howard,
Here.
Mitchell,
Here.
Chair Miser,
Here.
Members Schneider,
Here.
and Wecken, absent.
Thank you. First item, we will call for approval of the meeting minutes of September 15th.
I approve.
Second.
Mitchell approves. Is there a second? Jean, thank you. Any corrections, additions to the meeting minutes of September 15th? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No? Any no's? Okay. Next item, concept plan for a possible three-lot minor subdivision at 900 6th Street. In 1611063, 10000, discussion only. Would one of you want to go up to the front and just describe what's different from when you were here last time?
I'm Bob Bardell. I'm the owner of the land, doing the subdivision there, or hoping to do one. What I wanted to kind of bring up today was all the people I've talked to, the professionals in the business, telling me, you know, why not to do a condominium development, which is kind of what I'm hearing from the Village Planning Commission. And I'm talking to my architect, my real estate agent, my commercial developer. I wrote them all down here. The banks don't want to give out the loans. Everything is messy. You know, when you get into these they don't like it anymore. I had, who was it here? Well, Pete, you know, same thing. You guys don't like getting into condominium development of lots, okay? And I just thought, well, make sure you guys realize that, you know, I'm just going by these people who, you know, I'm taking their recommendations and what's the best way to go, all right? So when I look at it, I go, well, okay, if that's what's recommended, what is wrong with individual ownership versus condominiums? Well, with individual ownerships, you're going to get people like myself who take care of things because it's theirs. You get into condos, now you got multiple people moving, buying, whatever. You can have condos within condos. And I think being the old ma and pa type business, if you have a history of doing developments, you can see how they handle it. It's very likely that if we do a condominium type development here, I'm not going to be doing it. But if you want somebody that's been in town for a long time, that's taken care of things and shown the history of being able to take care of things, I'm going to do it. I'll make sure that the people who buy these lots build the proper building that looks nice with mine, gives you the maximum amount of green space. You know, if you do a condominium, you're going to have a higher concentration of buildings on a lot. Am I right, Pete? You try to, yeah.
You'd probably add more to it, yeah.
Exactly, and so maybe you make more money. But we're looking at coming up with a CSM that fits what the village requirements are, plus gives you more green space than what their first one had, one less building type thing. So, but I wrote a few more things down here that I thought should be brought up here. I think it was the architect, my good friend who drew up my building. I've also did Rivers Oaks, so if you've taken a look at that development, it's been 10 years, it still looks pretty good. My office building, if you look at it, it's well maintained. I did a condominium on a fourplex over here where I owned it individually, then I sold it off as condos. As soon as I sold it, it doesn't look so great. You know, so it's who's controlling it that determines the end result of what North Hudson's going to have years down the road here is what I'm saying. So, but I understand there's some confusion on whether we can do this with the ordinances. If we do a condo, you're still going to have access off of Crowley. It's the same thing. Okay, if we do two more lots, we still have access off of Crowley. The reason we don't have access off of the highway is the state won't give it to you. I haven't even asked. Okay, so I guess that'd be my hardship if we were going to try to get around this with a hardship or a variance or something, or just the fact that you're going to have a nicer development is a hardship, you know, in that it limits the land the way we can develop it. Okay, But I guess that's my point for being here right now. I'm gonna have Pete go over the CSM. He's got some ideas why he thinks the CSM fits the ordinances. I'm hearing from Cedar Corp that they don't think it follows. It's not real clear in there between the new and the old, and Pete's gonna try to answer that. But any questions on what I just said or concerns, I guess?
Okay, let's,
All right, go ahead, Pete.
Well, I'd like to expound on what Bob says. He's got over 600 feet of frontage, and he's only going to be able to utilize about 100 feet of it because of the stacking ability to get the stopping at Cratley Lane. And then we have the issue of no access, direct access to the highway. So basically, the guy has over 600 feet of frontage, and he only got one spot to get in and out of his place. So basically, the state and the government is limiting his property to. But then let's go to your ordinance. Nowhere in this ordinance, it requires you to have a certain amount of frontage. Okay, every lot has to have a frontage and it has to have access. And nowhere in there does it say direct access. Nowhere does it say that you have to access your property through your lot. So my question is so what if we had direct access? And the whole CSM was approved. Then they go and put the driveways in just like Bob had. Would you allow it? Via easement, go in and out? You know, you understand what I'm saying, right? So if we had access to the highway, but we didn't use it, and we had the CSM approved, and we built it just like he wants to do it, but you stop him from doing it.
That's irrelevant.
My question in the whole thing is I get back to the flexibility of ordinances, and I think the reason why this ordinance is a little bit ambiguous is that it doesn't, I think it allows some flexibility. And I think the street portion belongs to new streets. I don't believe it belongs to existing streets. I don't think anything in there was intended to be addressing existing streets. So I just don't think the ordinance really says it, how you guys have been perceiving it to say.
anyone have any questions for him?
I guess, I'll take this from Mary's book, but again, there's always the fire trucks and everything else. And I mean, I guess I would check with the state whether or not you can or whether or not there's a closed, if there is, we still got to get fire trucks in and out. We got to get emergency trucks in and out. So I guess I'd like to see what I guess the state would say with the Highway 35 being there is whether it's a fire lane only coming in and out or whatever else. I mean, I guess that's part of it too, because I don't see that in here because that will be brought up furthermore.
Fire trucks would have to, drive in and back out. It's, 250 feet or 200 feet at the most. They're going to be going in there. They can't back up in 200 feet. I mean, all these
Well, ask the
properties.
fire marshal about that.
Yeah, I mean,
what
that's
they
true.
like
That's
doing
fine.
about
I mean,
it.
I agree with you. Absolutely. But I mean, almost all these commercial properties,
You've got to bring in extra trucks, and you've got ambulances coming in, you've got cops coming in, you've got first responders coming in, and there's potentially more hazards in there. I see concerns in this, and this is usually why they bring up these concerns. So I guess I'd like to kind of see what a fire marshal would say about this and their ideas, and then move from there and also see what we can do with the state about that. We are also looking at safety. In the denser population that we get on these lots, we have to make sure that these residents, whatever it be, that safety is also utmost concern.
This isn't residential. This will be commercial property.
And it will be commercial.
Anyone else?
In past experiences with discussions like this particularly about fire trucks, but don't they need a cul-de-sac turnaround to be, isn't that part of a?
Yes.
Depends on how far coming into the property, and kind of dictates on what they.
Better go up.
Usually it dependent on like how much, to get back into the property, if you got a lot of frontage per se, then they're gonna require some kind of a turnaround, but if it's fairly close to a public right of way, they can, to some degree, be able to
an example would be where it says Lot 1, that is an existing building. And
Yes.
so if a fire truck were to go in there, it would go into the driveway, fight the fire, and then back out.
Correct.
Because that's the kind of distance.
Yep.
See, I remember in the corner lot that there was gonna be, they were proposing a grocery store there. From what I remember, the trucks had to be able to go all the way around the building and come out
Yep.
through there. They weren't trapped to a backing up situation.
Correct.
And we proposed that in our first concept, is to wrap it around, the parking lot to go around. And that can be done, from going lower parking lot to the upper parking lot, do a horseshoe. I mean, to accomplish exactly what you're talking about, that's not an issue. We can create those easements to make sure that happens.
But not at the width of a street, is that what you're saying?
Right, it would be, I would assume 20 feet, it'd be your town road type street width.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't, I mean, it'd be like your county road V type, but it ain't gonna be your city street of 36 feet gutter to gutter, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what we'd be, I mean, it's perfectly accessible.
I think the way it's on the map, it's 25 feet is what you guys.
I think I have
advocate
like, yeah, 25 feet in width across
for the access.
for the access easement.
Is what they show on the CSM.
So, actually, I have a question for you, Kevin, is it possible to put a city street on the west side of Lot 1, 2, going to the top 3, or is that too close to the highway?
It would be too close to the
Yeah,
highway.
it's impossible.
Yeah.
Because that could solve it too, if that were
Right.
possible.
Yeah, that's
Right.
the unfortunate part, with buildings sitting there, there's no way we can get a public street in there.
Can I just make a suggestion to, I read the ordinance, everybody's read the ordinance, and we have a little disagreement maybe on how it's interpreted, but, I think this is gonna require a variance, and, you may have a lot of good arguments to get that variance. That's not my call, it's not this
Right.
board's call, but I think maybe for tonight, what may be helpful to the applicant is for the board just to have a discussion of this with the assumption that they would get a variance. Would this be acceptable layout like this if the Board of Adjustment would grant them a variance to allow access by a private easement? There's other things to consider in terms of, I know last time we talked about the impact of the residents to the east there, and, if the driveway to the north was handled, and some of those issues, to see if that was resolved. It's just a suggestion to,
Yep.
To maybe move it forward, or, we can say, we're not gonna look at this, we don't think it's gonna comply, and go to a condo, or go try to get a variance and bring it back then. But
And the
may-
main difference between this and what we saw last time is there's no Lot 4.
There's no
on
lot
the highway.
4, yeah, and there's no development shown on lot 3 essentially. But it might be nice for the applicant to just get some direction on what they're presenting with this tonight.
And just to let you know, it's been 25 years since I built the building. There hasn't been any interest in what would be Lot 2 until just recently. And Lot 3 could be another 25 years, for all I know.
I think it's a great piece of commercial land. But if you can't build it, nobody will finance it. It pretty much just sits there, and it's there's a tax base there it's not being utilized. Like I said, we can handle doing the turnaround, but one of the reasons why we didn't do that was because the plan commission was worried about green space and setbacks from the north property line, making sure so guidelines there would be nice. Is it 5 feet if we stayed away with the pavement edge? And planted some trees and some brush or some kind of shrubs there would be adequate. Those are the guidelines we need to look at. Then I know that was one of the concerns.
It's hard to plan to know what will happen with Lot 2, that maybe years away is the thing, so. I mean, the building may be tipped differently. I think what kind of building will go up on there, whoever ends up buying it. So there's where, how do you plan that far ahead for something you don't know what's gonna happen, I guess?
Bob, could you go back up and explain what you did last time as far as the property to the north, Jane's property?
Yeah, Jane,
About the driveway and the septic and all that stuff, that you have some
the
agreement?
only thing that's on that lot number 3 on the CSM right now is the drain field. There's nothing else there. There's an easement. I do own most of that driveway. It's an easement for a residential house.
And would she keep that easement?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, both of them,
yes.
yes.
Because you had mentioned something that.
We
something was
had
changed
an
once-
agreement, actually Sam Carey drew it up years ago, that shows, how all that works out and her responsibilities, and it's all been signed and sealed, and so far, no problems. Yet, at least.
Hey, Bob, I wasn't at the previous meeting.
Sure.
So lot 3, is that the Lund property? Is that? Jane
That's
Lund?
one lot.
That's lot 3?
That's right next to Jane Vegas.
Oh, Vegas, this is called, it was Jane, I knew it was Jane Lund.
Okay. Oh, yeah, it's Tom, I guess. I can't tell with your mask on, Tom. Who am I talking to?
Okay,
She's up here, there's an aerial there,
okay.
that, yeah, her house is up here in this
Okay.
lot.
Yeah.
And this is the driveway that
I
crosses
see.
with the
And then
easement that they're talking.
There was a lot 4, now lot 1 is just wider, lot 2 is just wider. Is that-
Yeah, and it fits the ordinances for
We were trying
width
to
and
do
stuff.
is make sure they had the 100 feet of frontage to try to meet the ordinance.
Yeah,
That was the big hangup the first time, is like, okay, we don't want to go PUD. Let's do a condo, it's like, well, we're gonna try and not, at the very hardest, we're not gonna do a condominium and try and meet the ordinance, which,
Yeah.
again, I feel we do, but again, we have a little disagreement there, but,
I'm gonna, excuse me, I've got a head cold, so. But I'm gonna read a section out here out of our zoning code, the Village of North Hudson, for fire apparatus access roads. And it says, where required, fire apparatus roads shall be required for every building subject to review under Wisconsin Administrative Code, blah, blah, blah. Hereinafter constructed when any portion of an exterior wall of the first story is located more than 150 feet from the fire department vehicle access. So, I'm not sure, but I think I might be implied that 150 feet off Cratley to the first floor of that, and your building you'll be further than 150 feet, because it's 100, your lot line
Yeah.
is 122.
sure.
So I guess I'm not sure how that's worth, I think the safety part of it and the fire department access, if you can solve that nut.
I don't
I
think,
don't know, I'm looking for public welfare.
Sure.
And
gotcha. I
and the
don't,
right
I don't
of
see,
the owner to do what he can do.
Sure.
I'm not stuck on the ownership of the lot.
Right. And,
part of
and
it. 'Cause
like I said,
this is a lot like any retail development that you see that is a large building that's,
yeah, we just don't have retail because it's office commercial, that lot,
yeah, but I mean, still, even,
yeah. It's
your
not gonna
building, your
be,
building could be 4 times as large.
yeah. No, what I'm
and it
saying
would be
is,
the same thing.
I agree with it, safety is paramount, and,
Yeah, so-
and if we need to be able to make a turnaround on lot 2 or 3,
Yeah,
it
so-
can be designed for sure to come down to the lower level.
Can you make the grades on that work for a
Oh, sure.
continuous loop?
That's what I was
Problem.
wondering. Can you
Yeah, I
connect
mean,
those easements?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that might,
that's the easy part.
Yeah, and see, the problem right now is
It's too late.
nobody's gonna buy lot 3 for who knows how many years.
Well-
How do you plan that out, except I was gonna have all these easements drawn up by Christie Oglin to have, when it comes to architectural review and who, what everything is gonna be, just like they did with Rivers Oaks subdivision. So that we could say, okay, at the time that we build something on lot 3, we need a turnaround there, and who's gonna pay for it?
Yeah.
There's no reason that we can't work all that out.
I mean, I've seen these fire department access roads done
Yep.
in many different ways. There can be
Right.
engineered lawn with fire lane. I mean,
Right.
there are some very unpopular fire chiefs all over the Twin Cities Metro that require 20-foot fire lane signs on a lawnscape, denoting where the fire lane is.
Yeah. And
Well-
the more stuff you put in when it comes to blacktop, the less green area you're gonna have.
No,
when it
but
comes-
I'm saying there are a lot of alternatives to how you can do that fire lane. But I
Right.
think that safety part of it
Sure,
is what needs to be addressed.
yeah.
The easement would be the fire lane.
Mhm.
There's nobody would be able to park on the fire lane, you would have parking stalls, off of it. So
Sure.
Sure.
the.
Yeah, it's a parking lot with a
You
parking
know,
lot.
the thoroughfare of the drive would be the fire lane,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
I believe it, again, would meet the code, but I think definitely we should bring it up to the fire.
Yeah. Yeah, and we had it in the first plan.
Yeah.
It was drawn on there. The only thing difference, we got rid of lot 4, basically, in the building in the front, so now we've doubled the green area. You know what I mean? So we may need a couple more spots to fit your parking requirements or something. I don't know exactly, you know, by square footage, but we're trying to maximize that too in this setup, and I think it's really the best, you know, way to lay it out for North Hudson.
Rob, what you were saying then about the fire road and all that, best I could understand,
Yeah.
that would be what they needed to come up with if they were to go and get the variance. Because,
Yeah,
as
exactly.
Paul pointed out,
We
the,
can-
the,
yeah.
the ordinance is
You
You need
clear.
a, you need a
Excuse me?
variance.
They would need it for a condo or for this.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Essentially, you could draw this
Yeah,
and make it a condo, and it would look essentially the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, there's a little bit is form over substance. The other thing to consider too is you know, your utilities are gonna come in off of the public road, so they're gonna be private sewer and water lines once they leave that right away.
And that could be whatever the city wants, it could be public or private, you know, depends on if the city wants them public, then we could do that. So a lot of times they're, water mains public, right, to the hydrant? We'd probably bring a hydrant in and put it on the end.
Done that with like
Right.
heavy development, yes.
Yeah, well, again, that would be, have to work through with the engineer right now, we have a sewer stub that's been stubbed in there, and there's some, the water main.
Yeah.
So, again, those are details we need to get later on through it, because first of all, we need to figure out how can we develop this? And then once we figure that out, then we can work through some of these other details.
So then parking requirements be the next thing to, I mean, you got, tackle these parts, tackle those, the verbatim of what are the stalls required for that square footage of office building.
Yeah, we know that,
Once
Yeah,
again,
that's-
that would come at the building permit time and development time.
sure.
Well, we want to see, I want to see a drawing that shows it. I mean, you know, at some point.
See,
Well,
that-
again, it's hard to, 25 years from now, on Lot 3, we don't know how big a building's be, and it's by how many square feet. As long as we have the space to put in the adequate parking, then at that time, it would be required, you know?
Wasn't there parking stalls established on the last meeting?
We showed them as a
Yeah.
concept, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it did meet, and that concept did meet the ordinance.
yeah.
It's per 200 square feet, I think, right?
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
200 square foot per,
Yeah, a building,
Gross.
number of
so you need
parking spots.
186 stalls for your building.
I have what?
You need 186 parking stalls for your building.
You're
No.
looking at square footage of the lot.
I don't think
Oh,
so.
that's the lot.
Wow, I got a busy practice.
How big is your building? How big is your building?
3,200 square feet on the
200.
top
Yeah, okay. so-
and 3,000 on the lower.
So
I think
it's
it's like
about
maybe
6,000.
6,400 with the top and lower, so.
So
Yeah.
you need 32 stalls.
Yeah, and we got it. We had to go
Yeah,
through
yeah.
that before.
You're like 40.
I got more than I need. I could have put it even more if I needed it, because I could have just went on the, it was just one big lot then, so. There's plenty of spaces for parking, you know, with this development, for any size building that's gonna go up there, unless it's more than 2 stories, which I don't think you guys wanna get into that, right? I don't think so.
well, acting on the attorney's recommendation that what we should do tonight, since, you know, we can't approve anything
Sure.
because of the access thing. If we say, okay, you're gonna go and ask for a variance, and we can talk about, okay, if you got the variance now what do we think? Yeah, if you put a building in on lot 2 that's like your lot 1 building, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
It's hard to
wonderful
do that
building.
these days, because
Spent many hours there.
the cost of brick right now is $30 a square foot. The last people I talked to, I mentioned I wanted brick, and they can't afford it. You know, so things have changed, you know, but I still want it looking nice, you know, so it doesn't detract from my building, okay, or North Hudson, you know. Keep it somehow looking decent, but I don't know, I think my building looks pretty decent for North Hudson, so.
I guess I'd like to
we wanna
ask
go into
Kevin what his thoughts are on this, and you know, and being in development and himself, and I guess it's a doable project, and normally you don't come in with on a 2-lot, 3-lot certified survey map with complete building plans, and that's not required.
Typically not. I mean, usually, if you got a CUP,
Right.
conditional use permit, then, all those things come into play. We're looking at utilities, stormwater management,
Yeah.
Right.
the elevations, all that, like the
Yeah.
heavy developments kind of. an
But
example.
we're still on concept here.
Right.
Right, okay.
Like my architect was saying, he's from Eau Claire, and he was saying they do developments like this all the time with easements, and it's just a standard procedure
Yes.
with them. So it's not like we're asking for something that other communities aren't doing, so.
That's
It
what I-
looks like you, on the west side is where you're kind of allocating, where you would do some stormwater management for
Yeah, down in that corner.
future.
Yeah, it's the lowest spot.
Okay.
There's plenty of room for that too. That we can incorporate that into the covenants of the property, joint stormwater management has to be so big, access, they're gonna need, ingress, egress easements, cross easements. Are they gonna allow for, cross parking from one lot to the other? There's a lot of things that, these developers in commercial properties have, and which Paul knows about, that allow for these things, and there's a lot of instruments out there that allow it, and they work very well. Every strip mall out there is based on this type of design.
Other questions? You were starting to say
No,
something.
I know, I was gonna, are we gonna go into discussion about this to?
Well, it's not a public hearing, and so we don't need to, we are discussing.
Okay.
So,
Well, I think we have a person in the community who wants to improve the community, in my opinion, and based on the other meeting and what he's done to bring to this meeting, he's, making a great effort. And I think we should, like the gentleman said earlier, we should maybe discuss how to help them instead of how to shoot them down. North Hudson's changing whether people like it or not. There's a lot of new things, our road, for instance, or, the townhomes, the apartments, gas stations. So, I think, what he's proposed last time and this time, I think we should get into a discussion on how to perpetuate this and help North Hudson and not, these laws and codes were written so long ago that nowadays, cars are different sizes, trucks, fire trucks are different sizes. They're not big fire trucks anymore, so.
We're gonna be running into situations like this, where you have pieces of property, stuck in between,
Yeah.
behind houses, and you can't get at it, you can't get a
Yeah.
street back there. There's gonna have to be some flexibility somewhere, sometime in the near future, in order to develop some of this land that's entrapped in the backs of all these lots, and it's just some things that the village really should start thinking about in the future, to allow for some kind of flexibility for roads and different things like that to access some of these properties.
I don't think anybody here wants to not have any building done. I think that we all recognize that it is important, that the community is growing and it is changing. And one point of this board, this commission right here, is looking for the advancement and getting good, clear lines of communication and adopting these things for the future. I don't believe that anybody doesn't want you to build. I just believe that we're keeping this foresight for the future open, and as things progress and as we grow as a community, yes, these things will be addressed. But, Mr. Bardell, I don't see anybody that doesn't want you to build. Every building that we get here, that's more tax dollars, it's more people.
Yeah.
It helps grow our community. And I think that that's just one of the things, that's why we're here, is just to keep these things in the future. We don't want some of these other communities that just put everything everywhere and it's a mishmash, and it's not. I think we're trying to keep the quaintness of the village still as the village, but keeping it growing. And I think that's why these discussions are good, and I think that's what we're doing, and I think we're we're getting there. I like that, took away a lot and everything else. I think we're getting there, and I don't see any reason why not. I mean, I think that's a great spot, and I don't see any where you're located. You don't have neighbors fighting you, that, you know, bringing out pitchforks or anything else. I think it's a great way to utilize that land, because it is the end of North Hudson. So,
It's the last lot.
yeah. Well, besides the one across that station, but yes.
So I guess where we're at is the board is not considering allowing the subdivision they don't believe that it fits the land division ordinance per se, so we're gonna have to require a variance. Is that the feeling I'm getting?
By legal, we need,
Yeah,
you need a variance, and we mentioned before, we're not the variance board.
Right.
We're, as Paul suggested, so if we were to just assume right now that you'd get the variance, now we would do our normal plan commission stuff, just like you mentioned, and talk about the fire safety and the roads and the looks and stuff. We don't need it all fully engineered yet, it's still a concept. You're looking to us to see, well, what do you think? Do you like the plan? Or do you, do you like the concept? I like the concept. I think others would too.
Yeah, I'm not in, my concern is just, safety with the fire vehicles and emergency vehicles to be able to get in and out of there safely and,
And whether it's now or in the future, it's gonna come up, because there's still, the way the ordinance is written about, you know, having a road access, you know, frontage and all that kind of stuff. If it doesn't come up now, it's gonna come up 10 years from now, so why not address it now?
And they did, you know, to their benefit, they did change their plan to meet one of their ordinance requirements, that they abut on a public road, which they do by the highway. You know, and it's, like I said before, I don't make the decision, but, you know, maybe this is one of those situations where, you know, they should try to get their variance. And because I think you can show some hardship just because you can't get access off of 35 and the other roads existing, and these are, you know, essentially back lots because of that. You know, I don't want to make your argument for you, but
Well, thank you. Oh, I wrote that down. No.
It also wouldn't be the only lot in North Hudson that a fire truck couldn't turn around in. There's plenty of places where it's enter and back out, so, I mean, I don't know. I would like to, as far as I'm concerned, see what we can do to move this forward. And
Gene, do you have a comment, idea?
No, I just agreed with this gentleman sitting next to me over here.
Oh, you agree with me, huh?
I did.
Gene's very agreeable.
Yeah, no,
I
you
think
stated
we'll
it
just
very
move
well.
forward with the variance.
Well, thank you, and I
Next
think
thing,
we need to figure out a way to solve the problem instead of create the problem.
Yeah, there's enough
Thank you.
hurdles.
When does the variance board meet?
Sorry.
When does the variance board meet? As needed? Okay.
As needed.
come up that often, does it?
We're needing it.
Now, what normally happens now after we meet, the village board meets the first, was it Tuesday, Wednesday of the month? Wednesday of the month. And I used to go to those and give an update. Paul's pretty much doing that. So between the two of us, we will tell the board what had happened tonight.
Okay.
And give a sense of what the board, I mean, we don't have anything really to vote on,
Right.
but I'm hearing positive things. But I think we all agree that, you know, you need the variance. It can't be done without the variance.
And there's no reason to draw anything further up till we get the variance, right? That's what you're saying. Yeah.
I
Although If
think
we don't
the
get the
one-
variance, why?
Oh, except what he mentioned earlier.
I think one comment that we have heard is that, you know, to show an access, maybe looping through Lot 3 for
Sure.
that connectivity for the road.
Yeah,
Okay.
that might help with the variance.
Like in lot, the first one that we drew up.
Yeah, we'll go right through, like we did in our first concept, yeah.
Kevin, do you have anything else? Okay. Anyone else?
Thank you,
Gentlemen?
everybody.
Thanks, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, we really don't have a motion or anything, but I think we can just pass along our,
Just giving feedback.
okay. Thank you. Number 5, routine business. Susanna, you're new. Welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone want to make a motion for adjournment?
So
Gene,
moved.
is there a second?
I second.
I'm on.
Okay, Gene and Tom for adjournment. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 7:35. Thank you very much.